Jack Hermansson versus Kelvin Gastelum takes place in the co-main event of UFC Fight Night Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2 Fight Island this weekend. I can't wait for this matchup. This one's almost as good as the main event in my opinion. I mean, I value a title on the line, don't get me wrong, but Hermansson versus Gastelum is a really good scrap and a very important fight as well in the middleweight division right now because we got a ton of guys going at it. I mean, in a few weeks' time, August 1st, we've got Edmund Shabazian versus Derek Brunson. I would only imagine that it would make sense for the winners of each of these fights to take on each other. They're on a similar schedule. Hermansson versus Gastelum winner versus the winner of Shabazian versus Brunson would make some level of sense to me. I feel as though Hermansson's going to get the job done against Gastelum. I really, really do. I think that Hermansson, in my opinion, I thought Weidman was going to beat Gastelum. I mean, Gastelum had some success in that fight, don't get me wrong. Stuffed a few takedowns actually early. It wasn't quite the dominant grappling match that people insinuate it was when they say that Gastelum lost to Weidman. Gastelum was having success in that fight. Dropped Weidman in that first round. Or the second round, I can't quite remember. And Weidman was really hurt, but came back, got on top, got him in this fucking submit, and it was just over. Kelvin Gastelum, in my opinion, is going to run up to another big grappler in the division here in Jack Hermansson, and he's going to lose, in my opinion. He's on a bit of a loss streak right now, which might reignite Kelvin Gastelum's fire and give him the best performance of his career. However, someone who also is coming off a loss right now, but's right there for a title shot if he does win this fight within the next few fights and knows it, is Jack Hermansson. The motivation is going to be the same. I know Kelvin Gastelum's the younger guy, but he's been at the top for a very long time now, and he can't quite seem to get over that hump. I feel as though this is going to be a sign for him to move down to welterweight, because Hermansson, in my opinion, is just too big and too strong and too good at grappling for Kelvin Gastelum to beat. I think Gastelum's a very good fighter. Very good. I just don't think he beats Hermansson, man. 3 rounds for Hermansson. We've seen him go 5. He goes at 5 with an amazing pace. Kelvin Gastelum also goes 5 at an amazing pace, so I don't really know why I brought up cardio. But still, Hermansson, in my opinion, is just going to go out there. And this is no... I'm not saying that Gastelum is this many levels below Hermansson. The way I see this fight going does not tell people, and I'm not trying to tell people that Gastelum is so much worse than Hermansson, and that's why he loses in this fashion. I think Hermansson's going to submit Gastelum in the first round. Do you know why? Because sometimes you just need a 5% advantage in grappling, a 10% advantage in strength and size to pull off a submission in the first round like I think Hermansson's going to do. I'm not saying that he's levels above Gastelum, but I know a bad style matchup when I see one, not to mention that Kelvin Gastelum is a favourite. I thought he was going to be a juicy underdog, man, and even then I wouldn't pick him. I'm going to be going with Jack Hermansson here. I think he's going to go out there. I mean, David Branch is a big, strong guy with a great grappling game. Was doing good against Luke Rockhold before that fight as well. KO'd Thiago Santos. David Branch, although having some close fights, is no slouch. And Jack Hermansson went right out there. David Branch is a big, strong guy and a black belt as well in jiu-jitsu. And a real middleweight. And has fought at light heavyweight as well. I mean, David Branch is no slouch, and Hermansson went right out there, dragged him around like a fucking dog toy, and put him in that patented Armin guillotine and just completely annihilated him. Almost got Jacare in the Armin guillotine in the first round, but Jacare is such a different level of jiu-jitsu that he was the one able to figure out that submission. I feel as though Gastelum's going to get submitted by that Armin guillotine. I think if you can put Jacare in that position in the first round, I think you can put Gastelum there. Not just put him there, but also finish it there as well. I think Hermansson wins. He's got good stand-up. I mean, when you want to look at some similarities and opponents here, Hermansson is a bad matchup for Gastelum. Somewhat like a Weidman with a better chin and a more youthful Weidman as well, that's somewhat closer to his prime. Might be a little bit better on the feet than Weidman as well. I was talking about this in my full card prediction video. If you haven't checked that one out, check it out after this one. But I was talking about this. Hermansson versus Jacare on short notice for Hermansson on a week's notice. I thought he was going to go out there and beat Jacare by Armin guillotine in the first round. I was going crazy in that fight because he almost got him with an Armin guillotine in that first round. But I picked Hermansson to win anyway, so I got it right. I just didn't get it technically right. But what I got, I feel like, was a little bit better. If Hermansson went out there and submitted Jacare in the first round, yes, we'd know he's a savage. But we wouldn't know all of the other unknowns that we didn't know about him before that matchup. He can go 5 rounds. He can strike with the level of Jacare, which is something that Weidman, in a striking match, could not do, even though Weidman was ahead at times. It was very clear that Jacare had an advantage in the power and was eventually getting to Weidman as the fight went on. But Jack Hermansson, on a week's notice, went 5 rounds with Jacare, and in my opinion was 4-1 up. At a push, at the bare minimum, I'll give you 3-2, but even that is wrong. 4-1. I mean, maybe give Jacare a round. One round was close. I believe maybe the last round, Jacare was landing a few good body shots on Hermansson, but he took the fight on a week's notice. I'm sure he'd do a little bit better. He doesn't throw full power behind his punches. One way that Gastelum has been able to beat a lot of his opponents, and we'll go through Gastelum's opponents. I know you guys are waiting for it. I always have to go through them every single time I talk about Kelvin Gastelum, but still, a lot of times when Gastelum KOs someone, and you see this quite often, Michael Bisping throws the 1-2, overthrows the 2. Hermansson is a guy who does not overthrow his punches. He doesn't even throw with too much power. He doesn't put power behind his punches. He touches you. He throws combinations from range. He doesn't put a lot of effort behind it, and he doesn't put his weight behind his punches or lean over his knee or anything like that. He just stays right upright and just punches away at the fucking waist. It's a weird style that Hermansson has of striking, but I think it's going to come into play here against Kelvin Gastelum, because Gastelum is a guy who capitalizes when people overthrow. He's a good guy, especially against Bisping. You saw this when he pulls away and blasts right back. Against Adesanya reached in, Gastelum came back and just launched right in again. I don't think Hermansson's going to be the guy to be reaching in and overthrowing against Kelvin Gastelum. He's going to stick on the outside, move around, and as you saw in the fight with Darren Till, even though Hermansson's not on the level of Darren Till, a guy who can stick on the outside and move around, much a bit like Neil Magny as well, can do quite well against Kelvin Gastelum. I feel like Jack Hermansson's going to get the job done by submission in the first round. I don't even think he's going to need to use his striking style that's better than Gastelum's, but that's just a fallback plan that even helps my prediction even more, I guess. I just feel as though Hermansson's too good for him. Too big, too strong. Gastelum's going to realise real soon that he's a welterweight. I think after this one he'll realise. And listen, there's no harm in that. You're facing bigger guys. I'm not shitting on Gastelum here. We'll get into Gastelum's record in a second. I'm not shitting on him here. He's a good fighter. He could go down to welterweight and do a hell of a good job. I feel like that's where this is destined to be, because Hermansson should not have the striking advantage over you, and I feel like he's going to have that advantage in this fight. He might not have a power advantage, but still. He dropped Jacare, hurt Jacare in that first round, almost finished him with strikes. Jack Hermansson is a very dangerous man. I just think he's going to be a level above in the grappling and either finish Kelvin Gastelum by submission, arm and guillotine in the first round, or I could maybe see a second round TKO for Jack Hermansson. Kelvin Gastelum's good. This is a wake-up call. Go down to welterweight. Robbie Lawler's right there. Are you telling me, guys, that if they made Robbie Lawler versus Kelvin Gastelum at welterweight, that wouldn't be an amazing fight for Robbie Lawler's comeback? I mean, Robbie Lawler's kind of left opponentless right now. If they made Kelvin Gastelum versus Robbie Lawler, nay, even if Robbie Lawler wasn't available and that was too much, Kelvin Gastelum versus James Krause, Kelvin Gastelum versus Nico Price, Kelvin Gastelum versus let me know any fucking name and it'll be interesting. There's good fights for him at welterweight, really good fights. I just feel as though these guys are too big. And listen, when you're striking with guys, the weight advantage is not so much. But when you're grappling, and you've got a guy who's so willing to grapple with you like Hermansson, I mean, don't get me wrong, Hermansson's probably going to play around on the feet for a little bit. As soon as he lands a decent combo, he's diving right in for a double leg. Make no fucking mistake about that. And when Gastelum tries to defend it, I think Hermansson's going to come upstairs, get the clinch, get the head, and just go for a fucking arm and guillotine. I don't see it going well for Gastelum, but the winner of this fight, in my opinion, is going to be in a really good position. I think they're going to be in a position to take on the winner of either Yoel Romero versus Uriah Hall. If it's Uriah Hall, I doubt they're going to give him a step backwards unless it's Edmen Shahbazyan. I think they're going to use Uriah Hall unless giving Uriah Hall another jump up the rankings. Let's say if Whittaker beats Darren Till and Whittaker still needs another fight before they give him a title shot and they want to do Whittaker versus Uriah Hall rematch. Who knows? First fight was quite close if you remember it. But still, I think these guys are in a real good position. The winner of this fight is going to be in a real good position to take on the winner of Edmen Shahbazyan versus Derek Brunson. That's a great matchup, man. I really do think so. I think that's what's going to happen next. Or they take on the winner of Omari Akhmedov versus Chris Weidman. Gastelum-Weidman rematch. Jack Hermansson versus Chris Weidman. Hermansson versus Akhmedov. Gastelum versus Akhmedov. Great fights all round. Just look at Kelvin Gastelum's resume. We aren't getting out of this video before I ridicule it one more time. Let's play a game of Name a Guy in Their Prime. It's MMA Guru's game of Name a Guy in Their Prime. Darren Till lost. Did you say he was in his prime? Yes, you're correct. He beat Kelvin Gastelum. Israel Adesanya in his prime? Yeah, he beat Kelvin Gastelum. Jacare Souza in his prime? No, correct, guys. I know you're playing along at home here. Lost to Kelvin Gastelum. Michael Bisping a week's notice after getting dropped and choked out cold by GSP. 1 eye at the time. In his prime, although he won the title with 1 eye as well, that just adds insult to injury, but still, in his prime at the time, on a week's notice after getting dropped and choked out, no, and he lost to Kelvin Gastelum. Sorry, I'm really messing up the actual announcements here. Chris Weidman, at the time, probably relatively close to his prime, 2017 July. I mean, Chris Weidman is what, 36 years of age? He was maybe 32 at the time. I believe he was 32 at that time. He's only just turned 36. 32-year-old Chris Weidman, after one loss, a couple of losses to Rockhold, Romero, and Mousasi, still manages to beat Kelvin Gastelum. So even then, maybe Weidman wasn't even in his prime. But he beat Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, Jesus Christ. Then you go down again, Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort. In 2017. When USADA was around. In his prime? Not even in his prime. Like, not even anywhere close to his fucking prime. Like, Vitor Belfort looked fucking like someone had popped him. Honestly, as soon as USADA left, someone had literally stuck a pin in him and he just deflated outside. It was weird. And even then, Gastelum beat him, but that was a guy, again, out of their prime. Tim Kennedy. As you go, it just gets worse and worse. Tim Kennedy. Johnny Hendricks. Nate Marquardt in 2015. On a run for the title back then, was Nate Marquardt? No, definitely not. Neil Magny at the time was in his prime. Beat Kelvin Gastelum. Tyron Woodley at the time was in his prime. Beat Kelvin Gastelum. Even before that, Jake Ellenberger. Like, it's just... Jake Ellenberger was a pretty good win in 2014, though. I'll give him the Jake Ellenberger one, because in 2014, Jake Ellenberger was still somewhat relevant in the division. Let me actually see what Jake Ellenberger was up to when Kelvin Gastelum submitted him, because I remember him actually being in a really good position. Lost to Kelvin Gastelum. Okay, just lost to Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald. Okay, even then. But he'd beaten some guys before then still. He was still somewhat relevant, but come on. That was a fucking stretch. Kelvin Gastelum's going to lose. I like Kelvin Gastelum. I just think he has no business being a middleweight, and I think against a grappler who wants to grapple and is not going to play the striking game with him, the size advantage is going to be absolutely fucking exploited. Hermansson's going to get the job done by first round submission, arm, and guillotine. Good stuff. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye.